Something I've come to appreciate about Orthodox Christianity is that it softens the heart in this idea of why do you think God's order is hard? That there's constantly the advice and wisdom passed on that is a reflection on sin, which is a part of the nature of mortal men. So, and it is just a fundamental part of the nature. Here, we can have disorder because this is the mortal realm after Adam and Eve. That's the whole point. And this strict separation of what we might think of as a realm of abstracts that would be perfect. Wow. Huh. See, there we go. Not everything goes as you hope. Jumps right out at you and gets you. Damn it, sidewalk, you got me again. Ganked by the sidewalk. So, I was thinking about this softer order, or the way of thinking of the order of things in a way that was more soft. Because I started to think about sort of the hilarious irony going on. That now, to watch the way that which is progressive and that which is liberal and that which is of the left end of the culture have to now cheer on the secretive method of investigating people by the secret police. That the secret police, the FBI, this extra judicial this extra constitutional organization, notorious from its inception. And I could definitely say, no matter what, the old left and old Democrats did not like the FBI. My grandpa didn't like the FBI. My dad didn't like the FBI. And now Democrats have to hope the FBI will put down the insurrectionists, these dangerous white people who, at the same time, when you see footage and pictures of them, they are roundly mocked in a way that show a lack of fear of them. So you see these people at the Capitol on January 6th, and really, once you get individual shots of them, or you take a look at them, individual shots of them, isn't that odd? It's as if almost no cameras were working, because we have no footage of them. For some reason, the cameras in the people's house weren't working or something like that. I'm sure they'll find the footage at some point, and maybe they'll actually allow the American public to see what happened on such an important day. But I'm doubting that will happen because it's bullshit. And so, this is what the best part of this is. Black Americans have been trying to tell white Americans the feds are dirty. That the feds do all these dirty deals and lure you into things. That they're the ones who call you up with all kinds of weapons. Oh, like Fast and Furious. And then we lost track of the weapons. It was not on purpose. It wasn't designed that way. We really did want to keep track of these weapons. No, we're not going to fire anyone. Why don't FBI agents seem to get fired more often? Because they're members often of the senior executive services. Now, the beauty of this now is the right has uncovered all this. How did the right uncover all this? Donald Trump literally was so dangerous to the system. The FBI was constantly ginning shit like this up. I don't think people on the left of center really understand how important the whole 4chan thing was. It gained people a an opportunity to basically do language analysis. I know some of you are probably going to be like, don't tell them how we beat them all the time. The right became good at language analysis. There's certain things that AIs don't do well. There's certain things that squares don't do well. And that's come across as human. And so on 4chan, you had all these people, the people on the right of all sorts, and that finally it became that there were certain things that stuck out. The pattern of just mundane information was different with some user, or it's just that somebody humored an idea and dug a little farther. Now remember, 4chaners found Shia LaBeouf's flag, even when I think it was contained in a cabin someplace. Like, they found it all over the world. So lefties, especially like shit libs, who they just love dismissing the right, which of course is always like a sign of you do understand you can't even compete in the game if you never take your opponent seriously. Like, you should really look into the, you have some serious character flaws going on. And so a lot of people underestimated, do you understand the kind of intelligence that would take to do that, even as a group, and then organizing the information and organizing the group so that you could actually find this flag somewhere on a globe based on what you're seeing pass by in the background. Are you fucking serious? That's genius. That's fucking genius. And that scared the shit. All that takes, it just giggling over that. Giggling over the Shia LaBeouf's flag thing. We all knew how difficult that was on the right. People understood that. But if say you were some kind of private firm technically contracted by the FBI, that you were supposed to just find things for them, find dangerous people for us, that when you encounter some people who could do that, what the hell do you do about that? What? Because if you can even barely grasp what kind of brains and skill sets must be at work here, you're like, holy shit, these are normal American guys just fucking around on the internet. So the FBI became notorious for ginning up things. This used to be a thing of ginning up things against Muslims. That they would try to get somebody totally normal in America involved in jihadism. What was it? There's a bunch of these about, so there's some, it's hard too, because there's obviously some section of the FBI that is very good at doing what it does and actually finding criminals. Because throughout the entire Trump administration, the FBI was successfully busting child trafficking rings. And they were successfully, not just busting child trafficking rings, but they were busting child trafficking rings with hundreds to thousands of members. And this was happening about every 3 weeks. About every 3 to 6 weeks. You had basically a giant group of child molesters or porn people locked up or brought to trial, and it was just fascinating. But also at the same time, people are seeing there's somebody trying to gin up this or that kind of talk about this or that subject on 4chan, and so everybody makes the joke that it's it's a Fed, they're like, oh, it's a Fed, and that's a classic thing said on right-wing internet. It said, oh, you're a Fed, everybody's a Fed, and it is the idea is that everybody on the internet's a Fed, and it's just it's become so normal that it's a funny part of the way that we live, that we're just figuring the federal government wanting massive amounts of control of the mostly money that people generate through work, really, at the end of the day. They don't want control of just the people. It's really their money, the wealth they generate. That in control, wanting to control that means you got to control how the workers think. And that's the key, and 4chan shows elements of the Pentagon, how little, and yeah, the Pentagon, let's just put it loosely, how little control they have over the American mind, and that they're losing control over the American mind, and that we're winning the battle against the colleges, because the private, worthless arts degree colleges are closing because they can't produce wealth. People who go there end up in debt. So the FBI really has, now we could see that there's two sides to this, where they have to come up with villains. If they don't have the villains, they have to invent them. Saw this to some degree back in the day with, the anthrax scares and white supremacy. And there was all these white supremacists that were going to be using anthrax. But the thing was, you never heard what happened at the end of these cases. Well, when I finally started to look some of this up, or they would come up here and there, it would turn out that the FBI, in the long run, would have to admit that it had basically tried to lure this person into this situation. Or that it was a confidential informant, paid informant, something like that. And that the confidential informant thing is like a big... Remember, what was it? Al Sharpton was an FBI confidential informant. Like, that's, and people forget about that one. He was an FBI snitch. Which makes sense that, that they're... you got people trained by the CIA on MSNBC, and then you got this, this snitch who was working in tandem with Warren's department back during the Obama administration to go through the pockets of major corporations in the name of racial justice. Al Sharpton and a bunch of lawyers and non-profiteers show up and they say your company's racist. Suddenly, Elizabeth Warren's department is calling you about something or other, and you start getting ugly letters from the government about that make you understand you're going to get audited or something like that. But if the minute you pay off Al Sharpton, it all goes away. And because that's how the Democrats roll, because they use ethnic groups in that manner, because it's really that they're at their leadership are openly crooks, and I mean openly so. It's not that they're not. It's just that Democrats can't handle the shame that it's just right in their face. It's written all over them. We all know, without criminals you wouldn't have people in your top ranks. But so now, and so of course that means that then if us normal people know, then that means also anybody with any power to do anything about it knows. And so that's what the deal is. It's that they got him on a short leash, and so it's like somebody like Feinstein's really on a sort of bound to the state by a short leash. And so and she is in league with the Chinese. The Democratic Party is definitely in league with the Chinese and the communists. And it's sad. It's very sad, because the Democrats really were not culturally about that. They're the people who would become Tibetan Buddhists and would lament a sort of the Tiananmen Square massacre. And especially that, like, Tiananmen Square massacre was like a really big deal, but like the peace movement of the left, it's been forgotten by the left, and it really is, because that is really a fundamental aspect of the culture of it, is forgetting what was once in vogue as far as some kind of political cause. bumper sticker politics. And that's why, you could go into head shops and that which is culturally left, and you could see back in the day, a wall of bumper stickers. You knew the feminist girlfriend's car because she had bumper stickers of political her entire bumper was, a bunch of political advertisements. Like, you see it all over Blue Enclaves. They've just covered their shit in all kinds of, save the whales, sing back the songbirds, or I don't know, dream back the bison, or whatever. Sing back the swan. I remember that. That was it. Dream back the bison, sing back the swan. And my dad goes, "Oh my God." And I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "Okay, dream back the bison is a real saying that was," and he was able to cite it. And he goes, "Sing back the swan is just dumb." And he said it better, but it was one of those dumb, it just sounds stupid. And it's very, very lefty bumper sticker. It's very goofy. It's very, very rhinestone covered Birkenstocks on an old lady. So, anyway, so. Yeah, well, I mean, that's a major, that is the left. That is what funds the left. Are old women who can afford new Birkenstocks with regularity on their retirement money, and they're always loud. What do you mean? The Birkenstocks or the lady? Well, choose. So, the now progressives specifically, which it actually makes sense. This is one of the perverse ironies about this. The FBI is a progressive policy. I mean, you progressives do know this, right? That the FBI is something that only exists because of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. It could not have persisted without FDR. The CIA and the FBI are your creations. If you like FDR, you have to like the Pentagon, because it doesn't work any other way. You can't have one or the other. They have to balance out. You can't have the welfare state without having the warfare state. It can't be done. You all just won't deal with the basic economics of it, because you don't like dealing with market economics, because so few of you really acknowledge offering society skills that are valuable to somebody anywhere else, and then you being remunerated for them. You just simply won't deal with that. That's what makes everybody equal. You've got to do something that will get you your daily bread and get you your shelter on, and everybody's made equal that way. We aren't fed like the birds. We aren't fed like the fish in the sea. We've got to make our bread. So, and it's made from the toil and the sweat of your brow. And you guys hate that, because that would mean in some way, shape, or form the Bible describes the human condition in some way, at the fundamental, that would then undo your ideology at its epistemology or its phenomenology. And that's what's happened. The right looked back into Christianity and Judaism and found that many people were familiar with Protestant thinking, but they had not known about a wide variety of Catholic writers, a wide variety, what did Jews once think, then how did that change, and now what is the theology of Judaism? Many people, they didn't know what Hasidim was. They didn't know about, say, labor Zionism. Very few people on the left have ever heard the term labor Zionism, even though Tom Hartman based much of his career on on Benny Netanyahu and Benny Netanyahu's efforts to thwart labor Zionism. Yeah, that's another. There's an interesting perverse irony on the way that's evolved too, because it's changed and morphed in its form the whole time. The labor Zionists versus the nationalist Zionists, and it's just kind of fascinating to see how that's changed. But the FBI actively set this up, and you guys know it. We know it. And we know that really a lot of you get that. But you think that the devil is going to be on your side and never want his due. That's really the issue. You think that the devil won't want his due. And you see, this is very much like now how you're seeing how there's not really much the administration could do against Israel's actions. Because now you're paying the dues. You have no idea kind of what you did in the first place and who you went along with, because you guys don't pay attention to criticism. So, here we go. Do a little bar work and get to studying later.